Hi everyone. So today I want to talk to you about please love me dynamic, which is all too common in those of us who were raised in emotionally abusive homes in childhood. But part of the reason that the falling in love feels so good, and part of the reason why it felt especially good with the narcissistic boyfriend or soon-to-be husband, was because they did the love bombing. And the truth is that it wasn't like you'd never thought of those things before. You'd thought of them, and you'd wanted to hear them, and you believed that someone should have been saying them, and that someone probably was your father or your mother. Should have been saying those things all along. So it was all the things you were hungry for that the right people never said. You know, they were things you should have heard, but so they weren't outrageous. They were things about you being beautiful and how much they adore you and how special you are and how they observe you and they see you and how honored they feel to be with you and all that stuff. That's all stuff that should have been said, and it just feels so good when it's said. And so when the mask starts slipping, it's really very devastating. I know what happened for me was I started thinking, oh, I guess they figured me out. They figured out that I really wasn't so special after all, just like my mom and dad did. And this is all on an unconscious level, of course, but that is the message you say to yourself. You don't say to yourself, oh, they were phony, they're a narcissist, they're a sociopath. You don't say that. That's the last thing in the world that occurs to you. We were raised in a family where we weren't seen. Our parents were self-absorbed, distracted. They didn't protect us. They didn't adore us. They didn't do the things that we needed them to do. And so when this person comes along and they were doing all those things that we needed them to do, we really needed it. So when it starts to fade, we can't handle it. It's just devastating for us. And we crave it. We just really crave it. When we crave men who will fight for us, who will be completely all in, do anything for us because they see what's so special about us and they're inspired to do so. But somehow, mostly they're all in. They're completely committed. And I remember my first husband, just how much he pursued me. He just so pursued me. But then somehow, things changed, and it happened subtly, but before I knew it, it seemed like he was apathetic, and I was trying to constantly entice him to want to be in the relationship with me, and it was right back where I was with my parents. And, of course I didn't know this on a conscious level, we don't, but trying to be a good girl, trying to make them happy, trying to make them proud, trying to make them realize that their life was so much better with me in it than it would be without me in it, and make them really, feel like I was everything they could want in a daughter, and that I was everything that anybody could want in their relationship with me. I was everything you want as a sister. I was everything you could want in a wife. I was everything you could want in a friend. And I really, really, relationships were everything to me. And giving and receiving love was all I cared about. So this was really, really important to me. And so relationships were where I invested all of my energy and all of my time, trying to entice him and inspire them to put effort into me. And where did I end up? I ended up exhausted. I ended up in the intensive care unit with a heart attack at 33, and ultimately I ended up alone and feeling really desperate. And that hunger for attention and that feeling unloved was status quo. That was back to childhood, the childhood pain. He was a very neglectful husband. I mean, really, really neglectful. And I had such low expectations because I had been so neglected by my parents. We didn't get into too much of the problems that some couples get into, where when he starts withdrawing, she starts nagging. That makes him withdraw even more. That makes her angry, and she starts nagging more. we actually didn't get too into that because I was so used to being neglected by my parents that I was sad about it. I sort of expected it and didn't react to it so much. So that didn't cause us a bunch of conflicts. The conflicts were coming because that was just another part of his withdrawing and making me on eggshells and all that stuff. It only gets worse. And the criticism gets worse. And you feel clingier and trapped and more dissatisfied and withdrawn and angry and all, just it snowballs. Okay, so let's just describe this. I'm just going to describe this in the most common way that we talk about it, and that is the parent-child relationship. I mean, occasionally you'll see this happen with the same sex parent, but most often we're mirroring the relationship we have with our opposite sex parent when it comes to our intimate relationships as adults. Those of us who are having this problem, we had fathers who always had something more important to do, who were pulled away by their hobbies, their work, or lavishing attention on our mothers. They didn't get to know who we are or what we liked and disliked. We had to literally do backbends to get their attention. They didn't extend their energy towards us in any way. Instead, they made us feel like we had to capture and earn their attention and then work doubly hard just to keep it. As much as we wanted to be, we were not daddy's girls. This feeling, of course, is compounded if we were experienced fathers who weren't protective either. And if that meant that we got harmed in some way, we got abused either by our siblings or the other parent or somewhere else out in the world. If our relationship with our mothers was also bad or competitive, or there was just some coldness there, we were really, really struggling to get our father's attention, to combat the loneliness. And so if we continue to not be able to get our father's attention, then what we will end up doing is we're going to be out here finding partners who are apathetic mates, whose affection towards us may stray to other women, or we have to compete with work or hobbies or even a bunch of friends just to get their attention. And for a while it can feel like familiar, it feels familiar. But we feel in our romantic relationships just the exact same feeling that we had with our fathers, and it's difficult for us to recognize it because we've buried that pain so deep. And so to acknowledge that intense amount of pain that comes when our partners withdraw from us or they don't give us the attention that we needed, it just is really, we may not be putting it all together. It's an irrational sort of thing where we're just sort of reacting to what's going on with us emotionally, but we're not really fully understanding where it comes from. And especially once we're adults, it may not look like what it was as a child either. You can no longer see what was going on. If you're a guy, you had a mother who smothered you with closeness, but it wasn't the kind of closeness that made you feel good. It was mothers who mistook worry for love, who nagged you and criticized you. It was closeness that came with a lot of judgment. Mothers had a vested interest in how you performed, how you turned out, what you wear, how you behave. Mothers who would make you feel guilty for making them unhappy. Mothers who were controlling. And their love started to just feel like poison. It felt just like poison. It didn't feel good. It wasn't given freely. And you couldn't please them. There was nothing you could do that would please them enough. And so, what do you think is going to happen? You're going to end up in a stressful relationship with a woman who holds you responsible for her happiness, and she'll shut down emotionally, she'll be clingy. You may have been a mama's boy, so this is a little different because we weren't daddy's girls, and these guys might have been mama's boys, but it didn't feel good. It didn't feel good to be this kind of mama's boy. She will have replaced her husband with you. She'll be relying on you for emotional support. It just adds fuel to a fire of you feeling like intimacy is dangerous, feeling overwhelmed by it, like you're going to be engulfed by it. And in your relationship with your mother, you felt guilty for seeing her this way. You didn't want to see her in this light, yet you did. But her guilt is keeping you a prisoner, keeps you a prisoner. All this plays out. All this plays out in our grown-up relationships. Men will also find the same relationships that they had as children. I went to so much effort to explain all that because this is just so important, because we really do a number on ourselves. So ask yourself this question: are we trying to turn our apathetic father into the involved, loving, protective father figure that we wanted by trying to turn our apathetic partner into the involved, committed, protective, and intimate lover that we want? Or the unconditionally loving mother, the approving, carefree mother figure that we always wanted, by trying to turn our impossible to please, critical, clingy partner into a self-assured, unconditionally loving, approving sex kitten? Is that what we're doing? First thing you need to do is ask yourself, are you doing that? Step 2 is, we as women, we have to be willing to let relationships go. If anybody is not wanting to pull us towards them, if anybody is not wanting to be fully into a relationship with us, let them go. Life is too short. You're never going to capture someone's energy. So the fact of the matter is that it really comes down to self-worth. I guarantee you that there is enough about every single one of us that is lovable for the right people, that the right people would just love to be part of your tribe, part of your family, part of your circle. And so you need to wait for those people. You need to be in relationships with people that you're matched to be with. We need to reparent ourselves. So that's the third thing. Is, okay, first of all, we need to do inner child work. Find a way to get that parent that we needed. So give our inner child all the love and affection and attention that we needed, and make it permissible for them to get someone other than your father to give you the things that you needed. Okay, so boys, and give your inner child some freedom. Freedom to just be. And allow this child to feel approved of exactly how he is. Fourth is we need to be brutally honest about what we need and what we want from our partners. Ask yourself, if that person wasn't there at all, what would you want? So instead of trying to make ourselves morph around this person because they're the one that's there, if they weren't there, what would you want? And then how closely does that resemble who they are? Because otherwise you'll just force yourself to be doing something that you shouldn't be doing. You'll force yourself to be somewhere where you just shouldn't be. And feelings just are. They're not right or wrong. They just are. And if you can't be who your partner really needs or wants, then have the courage to stand up and say so. And protect your own inner child by standing up for them. And then also you're letting them go on and find somebody else. Find somebody who can be the person that they need. Fifth, both partners need to value themselves. If you're lining up to a partner who's apathetic towards you, it's an indication that you're not valuing yourself enough. And the topic of valuing yourself is a huge topic, worthy of many, many, many episodes, all of its very own. But valuing yourself, of course, is the big issue for children who've survived abuse, emotional abuse. We need to work on our self-worth. I'm not going to go too far into that right now because that's like I said, a huge topic. And I'm going to tackle some self-worth episodes coming up. So stay tuned for that. Most important of all, because we are raising another generation of people, and everything that we do, we have little eyes watching, and people, we're showing our children how to behave in the world. So the sixth thing is that we do not want to see a continuance of this fatal dynamic in relationships. It starts with us in the way that we raise our children. That means mothers. We need to change the way we are raising our children. We need to stop criticizing and nagging them. We've got to start letting them be who they are. Don't make your sons into your absentee husbands. We need to separate our fear about what other people are going to think of us, Pretend that they're like a seed and they're going to grow into a flower that you have no idea what it's supposed to look like. How tall it's going to be, how many blossoms it's going to have, what color it's going to have. You have no idea. So anything is fine, and you're just excited to wait and see what it's going to be. Fathers, you need to have intimacy with your daughters and understand that it is not sexual. The biggest reason that fathers stop having intimate relationships with their daughters is because they think that there's something inappropriate about it, or that they fear that someone else is going to think there's something inappropriate about it. You do not want to raise your kids to have a please love me dynamic. You don't want to have kids that have to feel like they're trying to get people to love them, and that they have to go after people and keep trying to jump through hoops to get them to love them. No, they don't need to ever do that. So thanks a lot for listening. You guys have a great week. Thanks. Bye-bye.